All right. Well, after a great off season, guys, we are officially back. Season 5, Guys Without Helmets. As always, Josh, Caleb, Tim, thanks for joining me. First time we're going live with this video thing, so fingers crossed, see how it does. How's everybody? Good tonight?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Ready to talk about some pro football? Lots and lots and lots of things happening. So let's jump right in and let's talk about what's new in the world of pro football. Anybody want to start us off tonight?
Sure. I mean, there's always a lot that's going on in the off season with drafts and trades and all that stuff. I don't know where you want to start, but the most recent thing was Amari Cooper going to the Raiders, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, it seems like all of a sudden, with a bunch of contracts, which we'll get into in a minute, there's been a whole lot of activity. Obviously, what are they cutting down? When's the official last cut down time? Do we know the day of the last cut?
No, I know teams have made their final cut downs. The Chargers just submitted their final cut throughs where they got rid of Taylor Heineke, and Trey Lance is now their backup fully. I know we watched him every game in the preseason, but they fully committed to him. So, but they submitted their 53 all the way through.
Yeah. I'd have to double check to the cut, but I was surprised. Like I said, there's a couple of cuts that I didn't see coming. By and large, I think teams have done themselves well this offseason. Don't you guys think? A lot of upgrades. It's been great.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I think teams recognize that, Kansas City has kind of figured this out for the last however many years, and teams are trying to catch up. And there's so much parity in this league that everyone's just trying to do what Kansas City and the Eagles are doing. And so I think we're in store for a great season coming up.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, like I said, this is season 5, episode 1. We like to just kind of recap some of the things that's gone on. It's hard to do that without talking about contracts. There are, today we just got Trey Hendricks signed. Who else just recently got a deal that was a hold in or hold out? Commanders just signed. Yeah.
Terry.
So there's been a lot of acquisitions. Let's talk about those contracts. Josh, do you have anyone you want to start with first?
Yeah, Caleb brought up Amari Cooper. He signed a 1-year deal. Not a ton of money, obviously, because he sat on the wire for so long. Not exactly a hot commodity at this point in time with his age. But Terry McLaurin, not much younger than Amari Cooper, just got his 3-year, $96 million extension, like Tim was saying. So we'll see if it's worth it. I don't think the Commanders were necessarily in a situation where they couldn't pay him, because you look at their offense and it's just Deebo Samuel, who's approaching 30 as well, and then Zach Ertz, who's 34. They just lost Brian Robinson, the number 1 running back from the team last year, obviously. So they're not really in a situation where they're like, you got to take a team-friendly deal here, Terry. But he hasn't been paid. Now he gets his first contract beyond his rookie contract. So good for him.
Yeah, the Raiders.
Yeah, speaking of the Commanders, Speaking of the Commanders, they're one of the teams that I'm a little bit worried about. I'm sure we'll talk about it as we get going here.
Yeah.
But just look at their defense. They don't really have much going for them there. Not much at all. Like Bobby Wagner, Marshawn Lattimore, and a few other guys, but not really any top-tier edge rushers. Nothing like that. Yeah. They made some money with the Brian Robinson cut to get Terry McLaurin, but right. I'm curious if they're going to try and make a move for Micah Parsons or another defender before the season starts in the next few days.
Yeah,
and the problem is that I feel like they falsely believe they are a phenomenal team, because they finished 12-5 last year, but I think they had like 8 games where they won by 6 points or less. That's wild, right? So that means eight games could have gone the other way. So they could have easily been, in theory, 5-12 last year, really.
Sure.
And so I think there's a little bit of that false. I know the big win over Detroit. I know my Washington friends will hate me for saying this, but I don't know that they're as good as everyone thinks they are. So good for them, though, bringing back McLaurin. That's a good deal for them. They needed Terry, but I still think they need more.
Yep. Yeah, more to come on our next segment. So Jakobi Meyers seeks a trade. Is that initially, Josh, why they brought in Amari Cooper? Because of that?
The news, the Meyers seeking a trade thing came out before Amari Cooper.
Right.
But obviously behind the scenes, we don't know what came first. We just know that they brought in a lot of receivers through the draft. And obviously Brock Bowers is the number 1 target there. So I don't know why he requested a trade, but I don't think that it would be solely off of Amari Cooper coming to the team, because his deal isn't threatening to him. Obviously Jakobi would be getting more money than Amari this year. which sounds weird according to recent history of Amari Cooper. We assume that he's a higher end receiver, but he's not getting that money, so it's not a threat to Jacoby Myers. So I don't know the real reasoning there.
Raiders also,
Jacoby Myers has quietly been one of the better receivers in the league, one of the most consistent players in the league, surprisingly. I mean, he's always in the top 15 for stats, and he's always consistent for the teams he's been on. So,
yeah, he had his first 1,000-yard. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good on him for wanting to leave. I mean, he knows his worth. Obviously, he's a good number 2 for anybody in the league, and I think he can get money somewhere else if he really tried.
Yeah.
He had his first 1,000-yard receiving season last year. Almost 90 catches, and they haven't had a quarterback for him since him being on the Raiders. So,
yeah, surprising that now there may have a quarterback that he's asking for. Wanting to get out now. Also, Aiden O'Connell out 6 to 8 weeks with a wrist injury, and they bring in our guy. LOL, Kenny Pickett. Traded after saying that he didn't go to the Browns to sit on the bench and complaining a little bit about that. Caleb, surprising trade for me. Minnesota trades Sam Howell to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 6th rounder. And a 6th rounder for a 5th and 7th rounder. Yeah.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Tanner McKee's out. I think he has a fractured thumb, so he's going to miss. Is it all year or most of the year or something like that? I just came out today, so I apologize.
He's not on season-ending IR, but he's going to miss a lot of time, of course. So
right, and Sam Howell has proven himself to be competent. I mean, he had 3,500 yards, and I believe he had a 1-to-1 touchdown-interception ratio, which isn't great, but for a backup, that's all you need. And I think that the Minnesota Vikings profited on this trade. They got a pick higher up than they did that they paid for Howell, so it's not a terrible trade for them, and it's good for the Eagles to get a backup because Jalen Hurts, fortunately, hasn't been injured, but this is the NFL, so we never know what's going to come.
Yeah.
Josh,
what else is exciting you want to talk about before we jump into
you brought up Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson didn't get the long-term extension necessarily, but he got $30 million extensions, so $14 million more over this one season. So once again, we're going to be in the same boat, but he'll be a free agent this time. So it's not going to be a dispute with the Bengals if they don't want to pay him. If he performs well, a team's going to want to pay him immediately, and he can go on and do whatever he wants. So less headache, but it's resolved for this season.
Speaking of the Bengals, I don't know what they're doing. Like it seems like every time they get a good player, they do this. I mean, they get their first-round pick, Shamar Stewart. He's an edge rusher. They didn't want to pay him. They had some weird clause in his contract, like if you go to jail, we don't have to pay you type deal, which is like, what is happening? What is this team doing? Yeah, don't draft them. Like,
they're such a poorly run franchise. Mike Brown, that franchise is so sad. Like they run it like the way you and I would run a Madden, like a video game show. What are they doing? Yeah, I don't get it. It's a shame because they've got a ton of talent, but
but they're on the offense. I think that I read and I could be wrong. We could revisit this, but at the end of the season, it seemed like after they signed everyone up, they had spent a vast majority. I wish I had the number in my head when I started this, but they don't have a lot of money to pay their defenders. Let's just say that. So they're going to have to blame the quarterback if they can't get this thing going early because he got the toys that he wanted from the toy box. And if their defense suffers, it has to be his fault. The contract that's dominated news that's still lingering, guys. I'd love to get your feedback, Tim, because I'm biased a little, so I'll share some of my thoughts at the end. Micah Parsons, this has gotten ugly. It's come down to not just Micah and the team or Jerry and the team. It's come down to, your agent's bad, or I got to have what in the world? What is your take on this Micah Parsons deal as we record this?
I mean, I hate to say because I know you're a Cowboys fan, but this is like the most Cowboys negotiation ever. Most teams try to negotiate privately, right? Most teams, there's just certain teams that for some reason they always bungle the negotiations, whether it's doing it through the media, whether it's leaking certain things. And, you have this great player on your team. You're on the same page there. You should be trying to work for a common goal. I think Micah Parsons loved being a Cowboy. I think he really did until he didn't, until Jerry Jones just kind of ruined it for him. And I know Jerry Jones says the idea of a trade is, unfathomable, or he probably used a different word, but I think, I don't know. Micah Parsons, if you saw last week during the preseason, he was laying down for a little bit. I know how long he was laying down for, all this garbage, but, he did not seem engaged. A Falcons fan called out, come play for Atlanta. He did the call me. So, I don't know if this is beyond repair. He's a great player. Dallas would definitely be hurting without him. I don't know. I don't know how this gets resolved, because I almost feel like they've kind of burned each other on both ends, like publicly at this point. It's gotten so ugly. It's almost, have they reached the point of no return? I don't know.
So, Cale, the allegation is that the agent, that T. Higgins actually had this agent retained and let him go, and then got his deal done. That there's two sides. I'm hearing he's a great agent. He's a player's guy. They love him. Then I'm hearing, hey, he's not so good, and that's why T. Higgins let him go. I understand the premise of owner talking to the player without the agent, because you're around each other all day. How can you not? What is your spin on it? Allegedly, they offered him the time, the money, and the guarantee, and he still said no. Or allegedly, his agent said, stick it where the sun don't shine. I'm paraphrasing. Your take on Micah Parsons.
It's hard to say, because it's really just he said at this point. We don't really know what's really happening. If they did offer him $200 million fully guaranteed, like Jerry said, and then I think Parsons would be a fool not to take it. But I don't know what's entails in that. I think we've seen Lamar Jackson go without an agent before. I think his mom was his agent, and he didn't really have an agent, basically. So he did great. I mean, he ended up being the highest quarterback to be paid that much money at a certain point in time until the next guy came up. So I don't know if agents are getting phased out or if they're needed as much as they used to be. But I don't know. It's really hard to tell with Jerry, because he kind of does his own thing. He's always on the radio talking. So it's really hard to know.
So, Josh, let's say this. Mike has done the typical, what do we call it now? A hold in. He's a hold in. Yeah. And let's just bring some of our listeners up to par. Said he wanted to be traded. Of course, Jerry's done this a long time. He said publicly, hey, that's just a ploy. We get it. Everyone says that. Yeah. Wiped his social media of anything going back, but Penn State, of course. Jerry's like, yep, that's all typical bargaining stuff. Yeah. Has said he doesn't want to be there anymore. But it looks like Schottenheimer, I read this today, is likely going to suspend him as the coach for the first game, because Dallas's policy is you attend preseason games in a jersey. He came out famously eating nachos, was not in his jersey, and then reclined on one of the on the gurneys. So what is your take on this? And let's talk about value. You're really good at evaluating the risk and reward of a player contracts. Let's talk about his value as to the Dallas Cowboys. And is he over or undervalued, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, of course, what he's done throughout his whole career, the least amount of sacks he's had in a year was 12, and that was last year. So it goes 13, 13 and a half, 14, and then 12. Obviously very consistent. And you've always kind of grouped him in that top 5 group with Watt, Garrett, Crosby now, Nick Bosa. Micah Parsons has always been there. And edge rusher, at least for the top standpoint, they're all paid in that order for the most part. Sure. If you go for average year, TJ Watt is at 41, Myles Garrett 40, Danielle Hunter 35. He's not sneaky, but he's statistically close to those guys. Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Josh Hines-Allen, Brian Burns. There's not a random guy in that list of names. And so does Micah Parsons deserve that? I believe so. Around that, and from what's rumored, what you're saying, the $200 million contract with the Cowboys, that would put him right there, right behind TJ Watt, $1 million difference, and tied with Myles Garrett. So if that's what he's getting offered, we obviously don't know why that wouldn't be taken on his part. But of course, he deserves that. He's been consistent. His pressure rate, everything that goes into being a good edge rusher, Micah Parsons has checked the box. And so does that continue when you sign him? Who knows, obviously. But he 100% deserves that level of contract.
So my take, here's the heart part as a Cowboys fan. I'll just publicly say it, Kev, you can give me your opinion as a Cowboys fan. Kind of over Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons, if I'm being honest. I'm the one that said Jerry needs to stop being so public. Look, it's his team. He has every right to be. And the brand, I haven't watched the Netflix thing yet. That's on my radar. But the brand, I mean, I've lived it. I've lived through this Jerry thing. Old enough to remember the previous ownership and Tom Landry, but I'm kind of tired of both of them. Tired of the whole thing. I think if I'm an owner, I wouldn't have the patience to be, guys, because I would be like, hey, if you're gonna whine and cry, I don't want you on my team. So I don't know. I'm just I don't care. Are we good enough? Are the Dallas Cowboys good enough to field good pass rush without Micah Parsons on the field?
I think that Dallas could do that. We've had Sam Williams. Sam Williams has been there, but he's been injured. He's supposed to be good.
Yeah.
And they drafted Donovan Ezeraku this year from Boston College, who's supposed to be very good.
Right.
The dream was to have Parsons and Ezeraku on either side of the line, but that seems like it's not going to be the case. But I think Donovan, the coaches have been talking him up. All the defenders have been talking him up. And then obviously Jerry Jones talked him up. So I'm confident in his ability to fill the role for Parsons. Obviously, he's not Micah Parsons. We don't know. He hasn't played a snap yet. Yeah. So I think Dallas will be fine with or without Parsons, but obviously it helps to have a top 5 edge rusher, like Josh said, on that line. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about teams, I thought it'd be fitting to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, Jim Irsay passed away. His daughter, I understand, is now running the team. They've had some success with their general manager. However, I believe they've had a revolving door at coaching, as you know. And really what I want to talk about is they drafted this young quarterback with, 15 games total college experience, something like a lot of hope.
Less than 30 since high school.
Yeah. So a couple questions about the Colts, if I could, guys. One, your thoughts on AR, your thoughts. I don't need to know your thoughts on Daniel Jones. We've talked about him on this podcast for 4 seasons. Let's talk about the Colts. What in the world?
I can start. They've gone very heavy defensively this offseason. They got a lot of people in their backfield defensively. They got Mekhi Blackman today, I believe. They got Cam Bynum they signed. They just got rid of some dudes. Juju Brents they just cut.
Xavier Howard.
Xavier Howard they
Tavarius
signed.
Ward, all these guys.
So they got 4 Pro Bowl DBs now to fit in there. Seems like they want to be win now, which is kind of weird because their offense has been stale. I know they have Jonathan Taylor. They do have a top 10 offensive line, but they have Daniel Jones. So we don't know what the vision is here. I guess they think that he's going to be they're going to be a contender with Daniel Jones, which for football fans seems very far-fetched. And I don't know if Colts fans are drinking the Kool-Aid here, but they have a great offense. They have Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. They just got Tyler Warren in the first round. So they're stacked on paper outside of quarterback, but
right.
I don't know how to feel about it. I think they're a little bit delusional. I think Anthony Richardson as a prospect, they drafted him to sit and to learn the game because he's only played less than 30 games since middle school.
Right.
Not a lot of games.
Big
some
time
guys
prospect.
getting drafted. They're playing 50, 60 games in college.
Right.
So
I mean, my concern, I know on paper, you're right, Caleb. The defense is great. My concern is their receiving core. I know we got some names there, but you look at their stats from last year. Michael Pittman, 808 yards, 3 touchdowns. Josh Downs, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. Alec Pierce is their number 3, 824 yards, 7 touchdowns. You add up their top 3 receivers from last year, you're talking like 15 touchdowns total. That's not very encouraging. Now, again, who was throwing them the ball? I know. But if you're talking about trying to be a win-now team, you can't have a combined 15 touchdowns from your top 3 receivers. That's just ludicrous for an entire year. So there's to me, there's some big holes with the Indianapolis Colts, and I still think they're far away from contending in an AFC that, to be honest, is stacked with teams like the Ravens, the Chiefs, of course, and some of these up and coming teams. Obviously, the Bengals as well.
Bill.
Bill. How can I forget Bill? Sorry.
Looking at the Colts, right? I don't think people would have a problem with it if it was a proven veteran. Like, obviously, Daniel Jones has proved himself. He's an NFL player, but no one's excited about Daniel Jones. He's in his last 2 seasons, 2023 and 2024. He's won 3 games and lost 13. Like, okay. It's okay. Let's say the Colts team is better. Let's say the Colts roster is better. Let's say everything's better on the Colts. Like 3-13 is still absolutely not promising. He has 10 passing touchdowns in those 13 games. I think 13 interceptions. So an interception a game, less than a touchdown a game, 3 wins. It all speaks for itself.
Statistically is better than Daniel Jones in that category. So
and they're paying him a decent amount of money. Like, of course, for a backup or for a starter, he's getting a lot of money, but it's also Daniel Jones. Like, you could pick up Carson Wentz. You could pick up Ryan Tannehill and be just as depressed with the quarterback play and not pay for it, you know?
Just as depressed.
So true.
I love it. Well, here's my thing. Like, I understand that the new owner, she's very adamant that everyone's on the auction. I mean, not on the chopping block, not auction block. That the head coach and the GM essentially may not survive the year. It seems like an awfully dire thing to do if you're building a young franchise around a young quarterback.
If you're a Colts fan, you know what I'm about to say. It's a shame because Chris Ballard and other GMs in the past, even Peyton Manning, they've been overridden by the owner.
Right.
And the owner has kind of made the decisions for the team for the past 2 decades. And unfortunately, he wasn't sober a lot of times. He's not in a sound mind. And he would just tweet random things. And there was just an unstable front office, I feel like. And Chris Ballard has always been looking over his shoulder, worried about what picks he's had to make. And now he finally gets to make a pick in Anthony Richardson. And now it's all on him that it didn't work, even though they probably had a plan to sit and wait with the new coach in Steichen, who was one of the best offensive coordinators. And remember, he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator. So I don't think he's a terrible coach. I think he's been dealt some awful cards, and now he has to coach for his job. And unfortunately, best looking guy is Daniel Jones. So they're desperate.
Last question, we'll move on. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to just confirm the numbers I was talking about with Daniel Jones. He's getting $14 million a year. I know he was signed later than a couple of these other guys, but if you knew that there was any inkling of chance that you'd move on from Anthony Richardson this year or bench him going into the season, and to definitively say like, hey, Daniel Jones is not going to be replaced by Anthony Richardson unless there's an injury. Well, Justin Fields is getting $20 million average annual salary, so $6 million more. He's younger. Aaron Rodgers, I know he's older than Daniel Jones, but I would have confidence that Aaron Rodgers would perform better than Daniel Jones, even at 28 years old, 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. He's making $500,000 less than Daniel Jones. Russell Wilson's making $4 million less. Carson Wentz is probably getting pennies. There's plenty of options out there that they could have gone with if they're just
Cousins is available. Right. That's a lot of it. So obviously, all right, last question about the Colts. Did they make the right call? Does everyone agree Daniel Jones gives them the best chance to win? Or okay, I think we're on the same page.
I think this is the same thing that Daddy Irsay was doing, and the daughter's just overriding what the GM and the coach want to do, and they have to play ball.
1,000,000%.
That is tough for Colts fans. All right, let's transition a little bit. Each year, as the offseason develops into the new season, we talk about privately, and we've talked about this. Each of us have a little bit. Teams that are overrated and teams that are underrated. The reason I want to talk about it this time, before we get to Week 1 preview next week, is because I feel like each of you have a unique concept that you want to share about these teams that are overrated. And what I'll ask you to do is let's go. I'll give you an overrated, and I want us to break it down. Then you guys can chime in if you have other ones. I have gone on record saying very publicly, and again, hopefully listeners know me well enough to know I'm not just a straight hater. Well, before I say this, I do try to at least make intelligent comments about teams. All right, that said, I'm a Jaden Daniels fan. I think he's great. I think the kid's awesome. I was very critical last year of Dan Quinn's hiring and Cliff Kingsbury. And I have said that I don't see Washington being able to do what they did last year for a lot of reasons. I'm going to let y'all talk. I think the Washington Commanders are overrated going into this season. Anyone want to help explain why?
Yeah.
Sure. Josh,
Caleb started off by he started off the podcast talking about those guys. Yeah. So you go ahead.
Like I said earlier, they don't have really any big hitters on defense. They have Bobby Wagner, they have Marshawn Lattimore, who are both very good, both Pro Bowlers. I mean, Bobby Wagner's a Hall of Famer, so but it's at the tail end of his career. They're kind of piecing together a defense. I feel like they don't really have a future there. I don't think. I mean, they have Stan Rastrell, who they got last year, 2 years ago. I can't remember. He's a solid DB. They're fine there, but overall, if you want to compete in the NFC with people like the Lions, teams like the Lions and the Cowboys, and then even the Eagles, who obviously they're a wrecking ball for everyone in the NFC. So I don't think they're competitive enough to stop these offenses that are being built. And I just think it's a giant problem for them, and I don't see them overcoming that.
Yeah, defense. Tim, you mentioned some stats earlier about the Commanders. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, my other thing I would just add in, like I said, I hate to call a team lucky because you do have to win the game, but
Right.
I think we could say maybe just two teams last year. The Commanders were very lucky, and the Giants were very unlucky. If you look at like point differential and the way those games ended, I would just say to that was the Commanders playing a much weaker schedule than the schedule they're playing this year. Obviously, you have to play the games you're dealt, but they're being dealt a much tougher schedule this year, and they're not going to sneak up on anybody. Last year they snuck up on people. I mean, especially the Bears, right? They snuck up on the Bears in that final game, that Hail Mary there. But they're not going to sneak up on anybody. People are going to be ready for them. And I just I don't know that I see them going 12-5. They'll have a winning record, but I think I've read so many publications of people saying that they're Super Bowl or top 2 or 3 teams in the league. And that to me is the definition of overrated.
Yeah, I think that they're 5th or 6th in Super Bowl odds right now, according to Vegas.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're 7th. Well, they're projected by Fox to be 7th in the NFL, CBS 7th, and then NFL.com 6th. So consensus 6th, 7th, and betting 6th or 7th.
Great.
So
they could be 3rd in their division.
Well, here's a thing that sticks to me. Like we've said this with the Texans, we saw the same thing a year ago, prior.
Right.
You get a young quarterback, you get a new coach. It's the perfect storm because no one has tape, no one has film. They don't know. Yep. We now have a lot of game footage. We understand the offense. I say I'm not a coach. Coaches understand, defense coordinators understand their offense now. They understand Jaden's tendencies. They have tape. This is a coach's league, always has been. And I believe now that they will see the tape, they will demise ways to break some of those easy plays, easy tendencies. You mentioned how many games they won. I was talking to someone in the office who was telling me, and I looked it up. Look at the number of losing quarterbacks that Washington faced last year. And I encourage our listeners, go back and look at their games and look at they had our backup. Like they had an awful lot of non-good quarterbacks that they won. And like you said, Tim, it was narrow margins at best. Couple that with the fact that we now have tape and defenses are going to understand how to scheme. I think that is worth a couple of losses. And I don't want to talk about we're talking about overrated. I don't want to talk about underrated yet. But like you said, they could finish 3rd. They could finish. Hear me. This is where Commanders are going to start hating on us. They could finish on the bottom of the division. Anybody in our division could, in my opinion, to be fair. And we'll talk. Caleb, I know you got a hot underrated, but Josh, bring it home before we move on to the next team. Bring home the Washington.
I do have a lot of different things. You brought up Cliff Kingsbury. Obviously, he's the offense coordinator, not the head coach anymore. But you look at what he did as a head coach through college and the NFL. He's 35 wins to 40 losses in college, 19 out of 35 against higher level competition. So, not successful there. But then you look at the NFL, also not successful there, obviously getting fired. His career average between college and the NFL is 45% win rate. He might be good at quarterbacks, but he's also had a lot of talented quarterbacks. So you look at his quarterbacks through college. Case Keenum, Manziel, Mahomes, now Kyler in the NFL. He went back to college 2 years ago with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. So is it that he's always had a high-level quarterback talent, or is it that he's really a quarterback whisperer? I don't know. There hasn't been really a gap year for us to know that story. But Caleb brought up the roster, and you look at their team, they're the oldest roster in the NFL right now with a 24-year-old quarterback. So that means Jaden Daniels, 24, of course. Terry McLaurin will be 30. Deebo Samuel's 29. Zach Ertz, 34. Eckler, 30. Wagner, 35. Luvu, 29. Miller, 36. Dietrich Wise, 31. Lattimore, 29. They have backup linebackers that are 36 and 31. They're old.
Yeah.
They're old. And when their starter old guy goes down, there's an even older guy behind him that is less experienced and less good, obviously. So I think it's good to celebrate Jaden Daniels' success. I think it's good to
100%.
be happy that your team is no longer in the dumpster, right? But we also need to have fair projections going forward because, like Tim said, they had one of the easier schedules last year. They played a lot of backups and rookie quarterbacks, respectively. Obviously, they had a rookie quarterback as well, but he had one of the better seasons of all time as a rookie. So looking forward, like you started off by saying, is we have to look at projecting them forward. And it's a lot of people will use the C.J. Stroud Houston Texans comp where they got a lot of free agents. They got Stephon Diggs. Everyone wanted to go there, but their team still didn't produce at quite a high level like it did the previous year. And so I think that should be expected for this team, looking at how the roster is and how easy last year was set up for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any other teams? Caleb, are you going to do your annual The Bills Are Overrated? We don't have to talk a ton about it, but I'm curious.
I have a different team, though.
That's overrated?
Yes.
All right, before we do that, are the Bills overrated this year? Are they right where they need to be finally?
I think they're overrated. Their number one receiver is Josh Palmer right now. They have Keon Coleman still, who's a slot receiver playing outside, which doesn't work.
Elijah Moore.
Their highest paid receiver is Khalil Shakir, who is their slot receiver. Elijah Moore is also a slot receiver.
Yep.
So they have 3 slot receivers, and that doesn't work.
And only one main slot role.
Yeah.
And then they have 2 receiving tight ends. They just paid James Cook a bag of money, who's Tim said the Washington Commanders were lucky. I think James Cook's a little lucky with his touchdowns that he gets.
He does.
Their offense is very lucky and strung together by Josh Allen being magical.
He is magical.
He doesn't make sense. So I think Sean McDermott's the beneficiary of that. Their defense is the same as it was last year, pretty much. Sean McDermott, Josh and I know, is famously starts the wrong linebackers. We can talk about that another time.
Started on that.
Yeah, I just knew as the annual Bills Are Overrated was. I'm kind of feeling like Josh Allen covers a multitude of sins, that they're probably rated right where we think they are, which is it's a coin toss. No, here's how they're rated. They're the Bills of the 90s in my mind. Not because they're a great team. The Bills of the 90s was a legendary team, but because they're going to make the playoffs, kill their division, and then Tua or Mahomes, Lamar, or Aaron Rodgers, or someone's going to shoot them down like every year. Because I don't think they've.
The AFC East has always been that. The Patriots had it for 20 years. They just happen to have a coach and a quarterback. Now the Bills have a quarterback. Now they're going to dominate the division for 20 years.
So if this one was a given, I don't want to spend a lot of time because we always every year kind of land here, and that's why I asked you jokingly. What is the team that you think is in fact overrated? That's not the Bills or Commanders.
Y'all might disagree, but I think it's the 49ers this year.
Okay.
They've lost a lot on defense this past year. A lot. Josh can help me name the players. They lost Brandon Ayuk. They have him gone for half the year. And then, their starting receivers right now are Jordan Watkins, Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, who's injured. So he might not start week 1. I believe he's on the PUP list still. So right now, according to their Our Lads depth chart, it's Jacob Cowling, Ricky Pearsall, Jordan Watkins starting at receiver, which is not a fearsome bunch. And Brock Purdy has always been the beneficiary of his receivers being Pro Bowl receivers. Like he's always had 4 or 5 weapons to throw to. He doesn't have Deebo Samuel anymore, which I know you can argue that he fell off a little bit and he's injury prone. They have McCaffrey back, but I don't think that the world or the 49ers are that confident in him because they did trade for Brian Robinson, who is a goal line back, or early down back. And Christian McCaffrey's line for Vegas right now is only 900 rushing yards, which is, I think, the lowest that they projected him. So, and it's scary with the dual Achilles tendonitis, whatever he's dealing with. We don't really know calf injuries. Their offense just isn't scary. In that division with the Rams, who's loaded, if Matt Stafford's back can hold out, and Sam Darnold now going to Seattle, their division's really competitive in my opinion. And their defense it's getting old. They did draft some guys this year. People like Michael Williams on the D-line, and then Bernardo Green's the up-and-coming DB from last year. So their defense is a mixed bag, but I think their offense can't handle the NFC, like I said with Washington earlier. So
you asked me to name some of those guys that they lost last year: Javon Hargrave, Dre Greenlaw, Devondre Campbell. Just looking for another name: Charvarius Ward, who ended up on the Colts. So they lost a decent amount of starters. Talanoa Hufanga as well. So this year they're gonna be rolling out, like you said, younger guys. not Diamador Lenore anymore, but Marquise Siegel, Bernardo Green, Michael Williams, Nick Martin, Alfred Collins, a lot more younger talent. And then, of course, like you said, seeing what Brock Purdy can do without the receivers he's had his entire stint there with the 49ers.
Yeah, Tim,
my only pushback would be, this. Statistically, they have it down that the 49ers have the easiest schedule in the entire NFL this year. So take that for what it's worth. And they also have a phenomenal coach. So take that for what it's worth.
The overratedness that they have the easiest schedule.
Here's my pushback. Here's my pushback to Tim. I don't think they have a great coach. I think they've had a coach that's an offensive mind, that is a great schemer, but not a great game tactician. And that's why they don't have 3 Super Bowls, because they should. If he evaluated talent better. What's that?
So the Falcons should have had a ring too.
And thanks to him. So I honestly put him on the top of the bubble right now. If I'm a 49ers owner, Shanahan's got to do something, because we gave you an incredible team for the last 5 or 6 years. Now we can't afford to pay everybody. Here's version 2. And if we can't get it done, he's probably the reason at this point. Although I will say, as an offensive mind, he covers a multitude of sins too, because he's a brilliant offensive mind. I just don't think he's a game planner. Okay. And I don't know if they're considered a overrated, by mainstream, or if they're just considered, I don't know. I think you're right, Kev. I think most people just assume.
They're shoot in to win their division. Everyone's saying they're going to win their division. I don't think it's a shoe in.
Tim, do you have an overrated team that comes to mind? Somebody that's you feel like is just overhyped at this point?
Yeah, I think we've covered the ones that I was going to say. I mean, Washington stands out to me the most, to be honest with you. And for all the reasons we already said. Now, I do. I'm sure we're about to hit it soon, but I've got a lot of underrated teams. So whenever we're ready for that, I got a few for you on that one.
We're getting ready, Josh. Before we go to underrated, anything you want to add in the overrated department?
No, I think we brushed up mostly Commanders. I think that's. I mean, at least from what we stated, we all kind of brought it up without mentioning it to each other.
Yeah.
Washington Commanders. Caleb brings up the 49ers, which. Kyle Shanahan, to Tim's credit, every other year he's a great coach. So they're the best team in the league. Then something happens. Jimmy G tears his ACL, or the whole team's dead, and then they suck. And then the next year they're the best team in the league again. So if we know Kyle Shanahan, they should be the best team in the league again.
Best team in the league.
Of how last year went. But but no, I think certainly with all the things going against them, like Caleb said this year, they shouldn't be labeled that high, but also easiest schedule. What does that mean? That's obviously looking at last year's team going into this year. And if you had a game against the Commanders last year, it was probably slated to be a very easy game for you until we saw the Commanders and how they performed last year. So take it with a grain of salt, of course. But I think we touched up on the other teams.
Yeah.
I think the other teams that are fairly rated, the Eagles, maybe you can say they're somewhat overrated. They're very loaded roster-wise, and obviously the Super Bowl defending champions. But I don't think there's any really bad rankings otherwise.
I think some of our listeners expect me, to say that the Eagles are overrated, but I don't hate the Eagles. I think they finally have figured out something. Their GM's fantastic. Their coach, we've said has been on the bubble since we met him, has somehow found a way. Hey, and newsflash, coach is still on the bubble. They started the season like the Bengals and go 0-4. All of a sudden, he's not the nicest guy in the world. But they won't do that. They won't do that.
Philly.
Yeah. I think they're a great franchise. I think they got something good for a while if everybody stays healthy. So no, I think the Eagles are evaluated right where they belong. Okay, so let's talk about this. Josh, I'm gonna go to you first. Teams that are underrated, and let me just say, I already feel you. I want to hear this because I'm with you 100%. Go with the
Which one are you feeling?
The one out west.
The one out west. Are you talking about Las Vegas?
Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if y'all how many of y'all agree with this. You said you did, but obviously Pete Carroll. Tim, do you agree with the Raiders being underrated, underappreciated?
I do, because of their coaching. You got Kelly, you got Patrick Graham, one of the best defensive coordinators, and you got what's his name, Pete Carroll. So
Pete Carroll.
And then you throw in there's depth there at running back now with Mostert and Ashton, and So
Yep.
they've got some talent.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Pete Carroll and what he's done throughout his career. Obviously, he didn't coach last year, but he brought in Geno Smith. Geno Smith, his last 3 years, he went 9-8, 9-8, and 10-7.
He resurrected Geno Smith.
Yeah. The only year outside of the first 2 years of Pete Carroll in Seattle, 2010, 2011, he was over 500 every single time outside of the year that Russell Wilson got hurt. And so his, obviously, 60% career win rate. He brings a culture change to a team that has kind of just been trying to figure out what their culture is. They brought in John Gruden years ago to do the same thing. That didn't work out. But now you bring in, they're still paying John Gruden.
He also had to deal with AB, so there's a mulligan.
Yeah, but that was his own. That was his own doing.
Yeah, amen.
Yep.
But you bring in Geno, you bring in all the old Seahawks guys, and this team's pretty solid. And I think they're pretty scary when you look at who they have. Obviously, Brock Bowers, one of the emerging talents, a top 3 tight end talent for this season. Ashton Genty, they bring in a top level running back talent, like Tim was saying. You have Max Crosby. You have 2 top-level run defense linebackers in Jermaine Pratt and Landon Roberts, Jeremy Chin. Like, they have all these guys that are going to impose their will on you. Devin White, Jamal Adams, they may not be good, but you're scared to play against them. It's a complete culture shift, and I think that they're a team that can take down bigger teams just because of that quality. Is you underestimate them, they're going to take care of business and win that game. So, and they got Amari Cooper for free.
And they got Amari Cooper. Yeah,
their offense on paper, their offense isn't that scary. They brought in Genty, who's going to be amazing in my opinion. But their pass catchers aren't crazy outside of Bowers. I mean, we talked about Jacoby Myers being consistent as we started the show, but I think they're going to be an old school football team. They're going to be scary on defense. They're going to run out the clock. They're going to run it down your throat. I mean, it's going to be old school. They're going to be a problem, especially in that division where the Broncos are supposed to be very good and the Chiefs, as we know, are very good. So I think that they can push for a wild card spot. I think that they could be that team that can put the dagger in somebody like the Broncos who will be competing for a wild card spot. So they're interesting this year, and I agree with what Josh is saying. They're definitely underrated.
I feel like for years, every year we do this season preview, and for years we've been like, man, the AFC West, this is going to be the year where, and every year something falls apart. But I actually really do think this year could be the year where all 4 wind up over 500. I really do. I think they could all be very good teams.
Yeah, and Josh, you said this off screen all week, like we talked about this. It's not. I don't think we're saying they're going to come out here and compete with Mahomes to win the West, or that they're going to be necessarily like a way above 500. What we're saying is, I don't think the rest of the league/world take them serious, and they can do damage to those teams, especially in their own division, and that makes them super scary. So watch out for the Raiders.
Look at the Seahawks with Geno Smith. No one's necessarily scared of Geno Smith. Now he's one of the older starting quarterbacks in the league. And what are they if Geno Smith's hurt? Obviously, we're going to see Kenny Pickett or Aiden O'Connell, and it's not going to be great. But they're a well-coached team. They have talent on their roster. They're consistent. I just think we're going to get a similar team to the Seahawks, but it's the Raiders, and they have Max Crosby, and they have higher-end talent at the premier positions outside of wide receiver, like Gail was saying, on the Raiders team,
right?
Than the Seahawks team.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to go next? Who is underrated as a National Football team?
You got it, Tim.
All right, I got 4 of them. I won't unpack.
Let's go.
I got 4.
Let's go
for you. I want to kind of unpack 2. Can I unpack 2? I'll make it quick.
Hey, we can do whatever you want.
Okay. So my 4 would be Arizona. I think Arizona's a little bit sneaky. I won't unpack that one. I think the Jets are a little bit sneaky. I like Justin Fields a lot. I like some of the moves that Aaron Glenn has brought some of these players in. But the 2 I want to unpack are the Bears. Yes, as a Green Bay Packers fan, I'm saying the Bears are underrated. And the New York Giants, the other team across New Jersey.
I agree.
Okay, well, how about I'll do the Bears and a little bit of Giants, and I'll tag it over to you, Caleb. Does that sound good? So the Bears, again, as a Packers fan, it kills me to say this, but the one thing, honestly, for the last few years, the Bears have had a good team, and we talk about this every year on this podcast, but they have nobody to protect the line. They have no coaching. They were a mess, honestly. They had good players, but nobody was protecting the quarterback. I think that's what killed Justin Fields there. Honestly, I think it's what killed Caleb Williams, the last few years. Now you bring in Ben Johnson, great offensive mind, obviously from Detroit. They bring in Dennis Allen, who was the former defensive coordinator for the Saints. They bring him in. Smart football people. They do lose Keenan Allen. That is, they've lost him. But now they brought in two rookies that are going to kind of slide into his spot in Loveland and Burton, I think is his name. With the Burton, the third. We all want to forget about the third. But I think they've just got some young talent there. I think I know there was a video going around on social media of Caleb Williams missing some very easy throws. Everyone was mocking Caleb for that. But I think Ben Johnson is smart enough that he's going to put Caleb Williams in situations where he can succeed. Look at what he did with Jared Goff. Everyone mocked that trade when that trade first got made. Like, the Lions got Jared Goff. Who? What? Why would they want Jared Goff? And look what he did with Jared Goff. He met him kind of where he was at and said, all right, what do we have in our quarterback and where are we going to go from here? So I think he's going to game plan really well. And I think that Bears team is going to be scary. The other one, the Giants.
Wait, can I add to the Bears real quick?
Yeah. Go.
So you mentioned their O-line. They added at guard Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. Both are great guards. And they got Drew Dalman from Atlanta as their center now. So brand new line outside of their left tackle. Like you said, they drafted Colson Loveland, who is a Brock Bowers level prospect. No one talks about him because he was hurt. Like, he is a top tier tight end prospect. Rome Odunze from last year, you mentioned. They got Grady Jarrett from Atlanta. And they got Dayo Odeyingbo from Indianapolis, who's a young defensive lineman. So they're stout on both sides of the ball on the lines. And I think my sleeper take of the year, you can joke me, is their receiver they picked up, Olamide Zaccheaus. He's going to be a game changer for them. No, I promise you. He was great for Washington last year. He was clutch for them. Yeah. I can pull up his stats, but I don't know them off the top of my head. But he was good for Washington. He was good for the teams before. But until Luther Burden's ready to take that role as that Amon-Ra St. Brown role in that offense, I think that Olamide Zaccheaus will pay out. So I love what the Bears are doing to piggyback off what Tim said. So you can go ahead and say the Giants now.
I totally forgot to mention the line that they picked up, but they definitely picked up some huge players that'll protect Caleb Williams and just some great positional players as well. New York Giants. Now, here's my thing. I will say the Giants, again, we talked about this before about having the easiest schedule, toughest schedule. Supposedly they have the toughest schedule in the NFL. Again, take that with a grain of salt, but they supposedly have the toughest one. They brought in a new defensive coordinator and Shane Bowen. I think they were unlucky. We talked earlier about Arizona or about Washington getting lucky in some of those games, 8 games that they won by 6 points or less. The Giants were almost the exact opposite statistic. They lost a whole bunch of games by just a few points on the last few possessions. So now they improve their D. They bring in a ton of players, Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, their top draft pick. They brought in some veterans like Brian Burns. They added Paulson Adebo from the Saints. They've got some good Javon Holland, the safety. They added Darius Alexander. Some good. He was one of I think he was the second or third round draft pick. But they added some really good players who I think will make immediate impact and reshape that defense in a division that, it's going to be a fight. You want to fight against Philly. You want to fight against Dallas. You want to fight against Washington. You've got to have a defense. And so I think they could surprise some people. Do I think they win the division? Absolutely not. But could they surprise people and possibly finish in third? Let's see why not. I think, it'll be interesting on the offensive side. Sorry, Caleb, I hope I didn't take too much of yours. But the Jackson Dart, it'll be interesting to see. I think they're going with Russell Wilson to start the season, but it'll be interesting to see when Jackson Dart's playing, because it sounds like everybody's loving the way he had a great preseason. So it'll be interesting to see when he takes over. But feel free to add on, Caleb. What are your thoughts about the Giants?
The defense, like you said, I think it's going to end up being a top 5 defense in the league. They have Dexter Lawrence, one of the best defensive tackles in the league already. Brian Burns, who's a top tier edge rusher. Bobby Okereke, however you want to say it. He's a 100 tackle guy from Indianapolis. Micah McFadden's homegrown. They drafted him. 100 tackle guy. Abdul Carter is compared to Micah Parsons from Penn State on the edge. Paulson Adebo is one of the better DBs they got from the Saints. I mean, he's for fantasy, he's one of the best DBs out there. I don't know if you play defensive scoring for individual players, but Tyler Nubin is their strong safety. He's one of the better up-and-coming safeties in the league. Javon Holland, as we all know, is a Pro Bowler from Miami. He's solid. And Deontay Banks, Drew Phillips, both homegrown. Deontay, you can argue, is not that good, but Drew Phillips is great as their nickelback. And offensively, they're in an interesting position to do what the Colts didn't do and let their quarterback sit for a couple of years, hopefully. Russell Wilson still has juice, as we saw with the Steelers, specifically in prime time last year against the Jets, where he kind of clutched it out for them. So I don't think that he's a bum. I think that he is a good bridge quarterback if they're patient. Obviously, he's going to have games where he's down, and it's going to be hard for them not to want to bench him for Jackson Dart, especially being in New York with that fan base. It's a little rabid. But I think that they're a great team. I think they're competitive defensively. I mean, it's a defensive game, most games in the NFL. I think that's a big difference for, especially playing against teams like Washington with a young quarterback and inexperienced offense. So I'm excited to see what they can do. Their offense, they do have Malik Neighbors, and they do have a good workhorse back in Tyrone Tracy, and then a lot of young players around them too. I mean, they're not going to kill anybody with their offense, but they're going to be competitive, and they're going to be scary for some teams with that loaded defense they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the biggest thing for Russell Wilson, he's coming in, obviously a veteran Super Bowl winner. When you're on the Pittsburgh Steelers or you're on the Denver Broncos with how good their roster was, the level of expectancy and expectant results from him on those two teams were so high. But right now, there's so much that he could overcome simply because of their ranking. Is they're ranked 4th in the division by literally everybody. So he's not playing at a high standard. He's playing at absolutely nothing for everything. And so to keep his job and to not hit these high expectations, I think they're going to outperform the projection there at 4th in the division. And like you said, they have the opportunity to hold one of the 3 teams above them in the division out of the playoffs, more than likely, because obviously they play them twice, or each team twice. But being projected 4th, and with all the players and all the talent that they have on their team, like you guys said, let's say Jackson Dart doesn't play and it's just Russell Wilson. Well, the roster should be good enough. The coaching staff should be good enough where they're not a bottom team by any metric. Other than we can say they might be 4th in the division.
The challenging thing for me is, like I've said, this division is usually up for grabs every year. It's very rare to have a team win the NFC East 2 years in a row. I'm not sure the last time it happened, or that happens very often. We know last year Dak Prescott was out most of the season. You know, the team was decimated on defense. We know the Giants have been trying to figure it out. But let's be honest, their quarterback play this year is going to be substantially better. It just has to be. You know, because Russ, we know Jameis is what he is, and they just cut Tommy today. But the 3 quarterbacks they're going the season with, and let's be fair, Dart has looked fantastic. And there's a rumor going around that they would like to throw him in as early as week 5 because it's the only game of their schedule that seems weak to them, which is against the Saints. But I'm with you guys 100%. I feel like Brian Daboll, he's not an idiot. He's another one of those brilliant offensive guys that has not exactly done a great job as head coach. However, you know, I think they've made a lot of moves, bringing in veteran offensive line. As you said, Neighbors was a no-brainer. It makes your team immediately have a superstar talent on offense. I don't think they'll have a problem with getting the ball to him at all. But more importantly, being an underrated team, I don't think anyone's taking them serious, you know, which is unfortunate, a lot like the Raiders, because this team's not likely going to win the NFC East, but it wouldn't shock me because it's a competitive division. And they're going to make it difficult for the other 3 teams in their division and the league because they're not going to lay down for anybody. So I agree. Right. This was one of my big ones. So we've mentioned that the Raiders, the Bears, and the Giants are underrated. Who else do you guys have that are underrated you'd like to talk about?
What are your thoughts on the Patriots?
Great question.
Oh, the Patriots.
Caleb has great thoughts on the Patriots.
Go for it.
I think they're going to be surprising. I don't think they're a playoff team. Obviously, they're going to hit on running back. TreVeyon Henderson is that guy. I don't think he ever fumbled in college. He can do anything.
No.
He's great in pass protection. He's great at catching the ball. He's great at running, as you saw in preseason. He can run back kicks. His first touch in the NFL in the preseason was a kickoff return. He's phenomenal. So I think every position they drafted in this draft is a starter. So I don't want to, Josh, don't get me going, but I'm going to say it on Efton Chisholm, their wide receiver, undrafted free agent, Eastern Washington, same school as Cooper Kupp. He's been their best receiver and really the highlight of their preseason and their offseason camp. Just look him up, Efton Chisholm. He's sneaky. He's pushing for slot right now. I know they have Demario Douglas, who's their slot receiver, but he's making a real case for starting in that position. So, I mean, they're the Patriots. Not Brian.
Mike Vrabel.
I almost said Brian Dable. We just talked about him.
Mike Vrabel. Sounds like Brian.
Mike Vrabel, whatever.
Vrabel, yep.
Mike Vrabel, everywhere he's gone, he's been good. I mean, he pulled magical things out of a hat when he was with the Titans, and we figured out that it was him and not just the Titans being good. Josh, take it away.
Yeah, he's a Patriot through and through. So that means that he's got the support of his owner. You know, I think we all watch Tennessee's GM undermine him year after year, trading, Brown and different players every single year, to the point where I believe, even though it's not entirely public, that you could see Vrabel's frustration year after year, and that's all gone. So if he's truly a football guy and he knows the Patriot way, which I believe he does, I think he makes this team competitive again. I think that starts right now because they weren't competitive. Let's be honest. They've not been competitive, even with Belichick the last season or so. They just weren't. They lost it. They're going to be competitive. And like the other teams we mentioned, they're going to be a problem for somebody. They're not going to win their division. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. But they are moving in the right direction, 100%.
Yeah, you have games last year, just looking at their schedule, where they'd hold teams to 15, 16, I'm looking at it right now, 15, 16, 17, 10, and they're not winning those games.
No.
And that's like they won 16-10 against the Bengals. They lost 15-10 against the Dolphins. They lost 20-17 against the Titans. Their defense was doing their job. Their offense wasn't. You have a defensive head coach last year. Mike Vrabel, of course, is a defensive head coach, but he's a proven guy in this league. He had Ryan Tannehill. He had great success with Ryan Tannehill. A lot would argue that Drake May is probably a little more ceiling to his game than Ryan Tannehill had as a quarterback. But like Caleb said, you bring in Will Campbell, who they slotted in as a franchise left tackle. We can talk about that at some point. But Will Campbell in the top 5. They bring in Stephon Diggs. They draft Kyle Williams. They draft Craig Woodson. They draft Braden Swinson, TreVeyon Henderson, all these guys that are immediately going to be starters or rotational starters. And then all the veterans that they brought in. Milton Williams. Everyone watched the Super Bowl. Everyone watched what he did. And he's going to be starting there as one of their defensive ends. K'Lavon Chaisson, Robert Spillane was a guy for him on the Titans. High total tackle numbers on the Raiders the last few years. Now he's there. Carlton Davis, Jack Gibbons. I mean, the list goes on. Morgan Moses starting at right tackle. Garrett Bradbury. They have a ton of proven talent on this roster. And a little bit different with the Giants is the Giants they have no expectations. They're playing up. They're going to be hungry for a chance at that division. But this division, I would say, is a little more open because we don't really know what the Dolphins are going to do. They're healthy. They lost talent. When there's injuries within the Mike McDaniel system, it all collapses, and they go from either a top-level offense or just a team that no one's scared of. The Jets, brand new coaching staff, brand new quarterback, a little bit of a letdown every year from them to some degree.
Same old Jets.
So there's more room for the Patriots to take over in this division than the division we just talked about, of course.
Yeah. And that's notwithstanding, the Bills are not going to get out of the way. The Bills are not, I understand we have them overrated every year just because they're media darlings. And again, Josh Allen covers a multitude of sins. He's amazing. We love Josh Allen. We don't hate the Bills. We get tired, I think, of the overhype. Are the Dolphins, let's just talk about them for a second. Let's land here because I have been more critical of Tua than you guys have. However, I do think that Mike McDaniel's at the end of his life as the head coach for the Miami Dolphins. Do y'all see? Do you see this being a season that he can save the ship from sinking, or is he pretty much a done deal, Caleb?
I think he's a done deal. You could kind of give him a mulligan with Tua being injured the past few years, which obviously no one wants to see that happen again. But if it does happen again, he might get another mulligan. But they have Zach Wilson on their roster, so I'm not sure how that will go. Their defense is pretty old. They're trading most of their players away the past 2 years. I'm not confident. Tyreek Hill, I feel like, is an episode away from being out of the league.
Yeah.
They have a tight end right now outside of Darren Waller, who just unretired. So that scares me.
Yeah.
Don Achane has been injury prone. He's not an every down back. He is very good when he's healthy. Waddle's always hurt. They're really skimpy. I mean, they're not. I don't hear it. It's not consistent. It's not reliable. I don't believe in it. So McDaniel, whatever his name is.
Mike McDaniel,
he's on a short leash, I think.
Yeah.
They don't draft. Sorry, they don't draft like they're on a short leash. They almost draft. I don't know. You want to say bad, but also like luxury. Like they don't draft.
Yeah.
None of the talent that they have was drafted by the team outside of Tua and Waddle, and that was not this regime. Like you said, Tyreek Hill they bring in. Who knows what's going to happen? Last year, he was talking about he wants to get traded. He left the middle of the final game last year. But this year, you get a first-round D tackle. You bring in all these veteran DBs. Like you let all of them walk. First of all, Xavier Howard a year ago, Javon Holland this offseason. You bring in Storm Duck, Rasul Douglas. They had Mike Hilton in here for a minute. Now he's gone. Jack Jones from the Raiders is here. They trade Ramsey for Fitzpatrick. It's just none of the moves you can really get behind as being great moves. And then obviously they're not putting a ton of success around Tua. You draft Austin Jackson a few years ago, and you draft Jonah in the second round this year. And then you let every single other offensive lineman you ever had walk. They're just not building success in the door for him, because you look at Tua in 2022, 3,600 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, 106 rating. 2023, he led the league in passing. He had 30 passing touchdowns. And then last year, your system's injured. Raheem Mostert's no longer a part of the system, apparently. Jonnu Smith, suddenly your feature target, even though he's been on the team. Devon Achane is a great feature in an offense, but he's not your every down number one runner on the team. It's just very confusing year to year. As Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill for half the year were just irrelevant. If you had them in fantasy, you started them because it's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but you got nothing. No. It's just, they're super confusing, and they don't add to the team in a way that you would think for a team that is struggling like the Giants did. They brought in all this talent. They changed things. This team is the same team, and there's probably going to be the same results.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to transition
to the Bengals, right?
Yes.
I was going to say similar to the Bengals, the way it's run, right? Like as far as not a lot of forward thinking and piecing it together. They're just going after names.
It's tough for me because I love the NFL so much, and I want the best for these teams. I want the Jets to win a football game from time to time. I want Arizona not be a dumpster fire. Like I'm rooting for the Bears and all this stuff, but at the same time, I was talking about it again at work. Like I have a Bengals fan at work that loves what they're doing. So do I. I mean, I want to see good football. But at the end of the day, we all know, Bengals fans, us, they're not a good organization. They don't know how to balance their checkbook. And you can't do what they've done. And
they have to walk across a public road to get to their practice field. No one talks about that.
Well, the Packers have that kind of weird deal too, and they're a great franchise. But you know what I'm saying? Like, ownership. The Jets will be the Jets. Yeah. The Colts will be the Colts. The Bengals will be the Bengals because they're owners. And as much as people hoo and haw about Jerry Jones, no, we don't win. I get that. But somehow he's built a franchise that's the most polarizing, media-heavy franchise in the world. So, I mean, he's doing something. Yeah. Let's move into our final segment. It's going to be quick, guys, just because we had talked about bold predictions. And let's go into the bold predictions. And I know, Tim, you had some ideas you wanted to share. I want to share something that's been on all summer. My summer talking to people has been dominated by one thing: the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh gosh!
And I'm going to make a bold prediction. I know you're laughing. I'm not going to predict what you think I'm predicting. How come 99% of the world is saying, get rid of Mike Tomlin? Let's get this guy out of here. All he does is get you to the playoffs, which is apparently mediocre to the world. I think in the National Football League, getting to the playoffs every year is a feat. Like, that's hard to do. It's very hard to do. So I'm pro Mike Tomlin, pro Pittsburgh Steelers. If you took the name Steelers off the conversation and said, hey, what if I told you a team that made the playoffs every year was going to bring in a veteran quarterback who has success in the playoffs, in fact, is feared in the playoffs, who can still wing that thing. He still throws the deep ball like a punt, so he's not hurting, you know. We're going to bring that guy in, and I think that'll make us better. If you didn't tell him it was the Steelers, everyone in the world would be, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. But somehow you say it's Aaron Rodgers, Pittsburgh Steelers, and like, they're done, bro. Fire Mike Tomlin. Yeah. I'm tired of the narrative. Here's my bold prediction. They will win. They will make the playoffs. They will win their first playoff game. I don't know who it's going to be. I'm not that bold to predict it. They might even get to the AFC Championship game, because we all know last year if Russ was just played the system, they probably beat Jackson and the Ravens. I'm saying they go to the AFC Championship game. Bold prediction.
Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's crazy. I'll say not bold enough. But
all right, well, that's as bold as I'm going to get right now.
Coming off of an Achilles tear at 4 years old, was still statistically QB 12 last year on the Jets.
Yeah, thank you.
People act like
preach, bro.
People think he's a bum.
How do people think Aaron Rodgers, and Tim, you speak to this, please. How do they think Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin need to go? I'll take them both.
It's absolutely insane. And it's funny, Ethan and I, my son and I, we write down predictions every year. And a few weeks ago, I wrote down, all the rankings and how every team was going to finish, and then playoffs. And I have the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship. Yeah. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I could see it happening, because I do think there's a lot of parity. Are they one of the top two teams in the AFC? Probably not, but they're good enough that they could get on a run, and the talent's there, the coaching's there, that once you get in, you guys know this, it's not always the best team that winds up winning every year. Once you get in, if you've got the coaching and you've got the talent, it's a crapshoot. Anything could happen, So I don't think that's that crazy. Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers has still got it, man. He's still the man.
I think so. And I did see your refrigerator. I promise I didn't steal your take. I just
piggyback off of it.
Yeah.
Think of the AFC teams right now. Are the Chiefs still the Chiefs without Mahomes? They might be close.
No.
But are the Bengals the Bengals without Burrow?
No.
Are the Bills the Bills without Josh Allen?
The Ravens.
Are the Ravens without Lamar Jackson?
No.
The Steelers are still a playoff team without Aaron Rodgers. So I'm taking the Steelers over any of those teams.
I think it's a huge advantage. I think, and Aaron, who skips every single preseason of his life, was present and doing the work. And let's be fair, he's got weapons. Like, Metcalf is no joke. And to me, Aaron Rodgers to Metcalf just seems dirty all by itself. Sorry.
His line's like 55 yards for week 1. So if you're a betting man, I'd take that bet.
All right, bold predictions. I stole Tim's apparently.
Can I bring up one thing on your Aaron Rodgers thing here?
Oh boy, yes you can.
Steelers thing. But we talk about Aaron Rodgers as not us, but you bring up Aaron Rodgers or you draft him in fantasy football right now, and there's kind of no expectation for him. He's drafted among the bottom quarterbacks, and I understand he's 41 years old. Will be 42 during the year.
Right.
But you look at his passing numbers. Obviously, a big part of fantasy is rushing. Like, you draft Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. The list goes on for their rushing ability. They're not necessarily the best quarterbacks per se, a few of those guys. But you look at Josh Allen, and you'd say that he's a pretty good quarterback as a thrower of the football. But you look at his stats. He was MVP last year, of course. His numbers: 3,731 yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 picks. So remember that, 3,700, 28 to 6. Obviously, a big presence in the rushing game. I think he had double-digit touchdowns. But you look at him as a passer to Aaron Rodgers last year, who was quote-unquote bad,
terrible,
and now not considered in fantasy at least. He had 3,900 yards or just around that number, 28 passing touchdowns, 11 picks. So very comparable to our MVP. Obviously, a huge part of that comes with winning. Josh Allen was a better winner than Aaron Rodgers last year for sure, and rushing numbers as well. But if we're talking about looking at Josh Allen and saying that he is a great passer and even the MVP in a position that is
stretch
passing the football, Aaron Rodgers put up the same numbers as a passer. And obviously didn't win those games. But
that was my big argument.
Yeah.
Like, I love Josh Allen. I'm a huge, huge fan. I think he's fantastic. But yes, his numbers are pedestrian for a guy. And listen, you can make the argument that any starting quarterback or any productive player on a team is an MVP, because without him, they're not as good. You can make that argument for anybody, anywhere. You're right. I love that stat, Josh. Thanks for sharing. Because the reality is, I get that all the time too. Aaron Rodgers was trash last year. I mean, the numbers don't lie.
To insist that he was a bad passer was to insist that Josh Allen shouldn't have been MVP at least. Maybe they should have picked someone else if that's what that's saying. But it's not saying Josh Allen is bad, but it's saying Aaron Rodgers is 100% not toast.
No, I mean, he threw it for more yards, which in passing matters. He threw the same amount of touchdowns. And if you take away his first 5 games, right, where he had the most mistakes, he wouldn't have thrown all those picks. So, I mean, I listen. I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers have only had 2 successful quarterbacks in their entire life, and both of them won multiple Super Bowls. I mean, everything else has been terrible, and it looks like they got a quarterback. So let's just roll the dice. I think it's wonderful. I think people are crazy for betting against them.
They're paying him nothing.
It's free.
11 million.
Yeah. Bold prediction, Caleb.
All right, I think Bo Nix will be the MVP.
Whoa. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Last year, rookie, new system, new everything. 3,700 yards, almost 3,800, 29 touchdowns, 12 picks, and he had 400 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. He was QB7 statistically as a rookie. Not a slouch. I think they could start the year at 4-1. They play Tennessee, Indianapolis, the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Eagles, which I think it's 50-50. Their team is fantastic. They're very balanced. Their offense is very scary, in my opinion. Bo Nix is one of the better quarterbacks in the league already, and I think that he has a real shot at winning MVP. So that might be really bold, but I think that, especially this year, we've kind of seen Lamar. I don't know who the voters are for this. Lamar's won it a lot. Josh Allen just won it. I don't see Jalen Hurts statistically being up for MVP. If y'all could think of anyone else, I'm missing Mahomes. But I think Bo Nix is a fresh face, and I think that he could have 12, 13 wins in this team. So I think he has a good shot at winning MVP.
All right, Josh, bold prediction. Are you ready for that? You said last night, I don't know if you're joking. Like,
what do y'all think about that? Don't leave me hanging.
No, I think we all agree. I don't want to leave you hanging. I think we all agree in terms of he was the most pro-ready quarterback who came in the draft. He looked like a veteran last year. Like, I don't think there was any doubt that that team was completely different. He's perfect. We said this, all of us, all 4 of us agreed. Broncos should have drafted the guy. Like, he was literally the guy that Sean Payton needed for this offense, and it was like a gift from heaven. It happened, and we were right. So nothing but love. That's what makes this division so tough, because 3 or 4 of the quarterbacks in the West are incredible quarterbacks. And I mean, no disrespect to Pete Carroll and the project and resurrection he's done in Seattle now and with the Raiders. I'm just saying Mahomes is Mahomes. I mean, and I don't know what people think of Herbert. Quite frankly, I think he's underrated. No one talks about him like they should. The guy's incredible.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about this guy. So, I mean, the truth is that the AFC West is going to be tough for years to come. Yeah.
I have one thing, just since the numbers are here right in front of me. Looking at Bo Nix. Speaking of MVP, Caleb, obviously he doesn't 100%. He doesn't think without a doubt that Bo Nix is the MVP. But if you had to choose someone that is out of the ordinary, of course, Bo Nix is what he's saying. But Bo Nix, compared to our MVP last year, 37-75, 29 passing touchdowns. He had a bigger rushing stat line than Aaron Rodgers, of course, on the ground. So a little closer to Josh Allen in those numbers. And if the Broncos, they start to win like they did last year, he could clearly, obviously, be in the conversation. Once again, if you're playing fantasy football, you're drafting him as one of the top 7 or 8 guys. So there's expectancy there. If he produces at a high level like he was at the end of the last season, it's not out of the equation. Because last year we had Jaden Daniels in that conversation for MVP, and he was a rookie.
Yep.
So it's not
Absolutely.
it's not weird to have young players, first,
Right.
second year guys in that conversation.
Yeah. No, Caleb, that's fantastic. Like, I love it. So Tim, you had a bold prediction? I stole yours, but did
Yeah, no. I got a few. I mean,
All right.
I was going to go the homer pick would have been the Matthew Golden for Rookie of the Year, but I'll avoid that one.
Okay.
I'll avoid that one. I'm going to go actually the opposite of a homer pick. I'm going to go Chicago Bears finishing in second place and making the playoffs. How's that
Yep.
for
I agree.
prediction? For all the
Second
reasons,
place.
I don't have much to say about it. All the reasons, just rewind. If you're just skipping around on this podcast, go back about a half hour when we talked about the Bears. That's
Yeah.
for all those same reasons. So, yeah,
So
that's why.
Second place behind the Packers or the Lions?
Ooh.
Oh, I hate
Or the
saying this,
Vikings.
but second place behind the Lions. I actually
Okay.
see the Lions going to the Super Bowl in it this year. So I'm going Lions, Bears, Packers, Vikings.
Oh, my.
I don't think the Vikings are it. Oh my, right?
I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah.
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 No, I love it. All right, Josh, did you summon one? Because when we talked, you were like, I don't really have a bold prediction. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
I
make you
think-
fabricate one, but
No, I think one that makes a lot of sense, and you guys kind of alluded to it with with Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You look at their receiving core and who they have. You look at DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin. Those guys, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, they're 5'8", 5'11". Not imposing talents. But you look at DK Metcalf. I think he's the second or one of the tallest receivers. I don't say second behind Johnny Wilson, but DK Metcalf, obviously imposing, large target. But you look at the number one receiver for Aaron Rodgers through his time. Devontae Adams really took over in 2018 as their big boy receiver. He had 170 targets. The next year in 12 games, had 130 targets, 150, 170, 180, 175, 141. 141 with the two teams last year, the Raiders and the Jets, by 141 in total last year. And then you look at Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers last year, 154 targets. So you have a lesser talented receiving core on the Steelers than what the Packers had throughout their last few years with Aaron Rodgers. Then, of course, Devontae and Garrett splitting those targets last year on the Jets. It's just DK Metcalf on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we know DK Metcalf scores touchdowns. So I would say, as a sleeper pick, that DK Metcalf leads the receivers in receiving touchdowns.
I like that.
I think
Yeah,
Metcalf's
I'm
the
buying
only
that.
receiver on the Steelers with the last name. So Calvin Austin,
Yeah,
Roman
That's
Wilson.
true.
Come on.
That's true.
yeah, I mean, you get behind that, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, DK Metcalf, he's always been in the top 10, top 12 conversation statistically. And now he has a guy who's a top 10, top 12 producer every year of his life. I mean, in the system of the Steelers, which is one of the most consistent systems, they've been lacking quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. I think it's an easy buy. It's consistent. There's going to be shootout games. They have to play the Ravens and the Bengals twice a year. So it's very plausible.
And also, they have their running game is consistent of Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson, who it could be a good running game. It could be comparable to Najee Harris, but they're not going to be
Right.
getting as many touchdowns as they were in the run game.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see the matchup that Aaron Rodgers creates in terms of, like you said, the ends of these games can sometimes be pedestrian when you don't have a quarterback, and he's going to make every one of these games with Burrow, with Jackson. Who knows who's going to Flacco?
So
Let's say
exciting.
Flacco.
Just
It's gonna
watch
be
the
exciting.
2015 Cardinals Packers overtime game. I watch it every year.
Gosh,
Watch it every year.
I do too, but I cry. So
Oh boy, yeah.
It's
Well-
one of the best quarterback games I've ever seen in my life. So
it's such a good one. So good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, guys, here's the good news. We have a whole lot of NFL to talk about this season. Just for our subscribers, know this is our first time actually doing YouTube. We're going to be live very soon each week. We'll get those show times going. We're going to have a weekly show. We're going to have some added content this year. We'll have some one-on-one discussions with the guys about some things. As always, we love if you would like, follow, subscribe. It really does help us out. There's one handle. We're available on podcasts anywhere you listen to them, at Guys Without Helmets. Just use that. Guys, it's been great. We are going to talk
Yep.
every single
Great
week.
show.
So let's be ready. Next week's our week 1 preview. So stay tuned. Check us out right here on YouTube or again, wherever you listen to podcasts, as we will talk through week 1, give you all of our picks, suggestions, talk a little bit of fantasy in there because everybody's got fantasy teams rolling right now. If you haven't drafted by now, we're late drafters, by the way. We like to wait to the last minute because we've been drafting and watched players go on IR, and we decided we need to go late. So we have some stuff. Also, the beauty of Instagram and YouTube is as you get these, go ahead and throw a comment in. If you have a question or if you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear from you. Again, make sure you hit that like button. It really does help us out. We'll see you next week. This is week 1, Guys Without Helmets. See you guys.